So in this episode, what we want to do is take a look at how do we properly onboard Oracle's OCI into a multi-cloud defense controller. Very similar to a lot of the other ones, what we're going to do is simply add an account and then use the built-in automation of the controller. In this case, again, very similar to Azure, very similar to GCP. This is going to be a bash script that we pull down and we run within the Cloud Shell within Oracle's OCI. So one thing I always like to do is show that you can browse. So if you kind of copy the link out of this, you can browse and look at the script, all the different permissions and different components of Oracle's OCI platform that we're invoking in order to make this integration happen. Do notice the prefix is still here, very similar if you watched the GCP onboarding video. We are going to leverage that today because I do need to differentiate the controller role as we provision it through a different name, because I think this account or different compartments within this account have been onboarded before. So what we're going to do, I'm going to make sure we copy this out. I am going to head over to the Oracle OCI console. I'm going to open up the Cloud Shell. Again, very similar to what we did in the other platforms. It's going to create the Cloud Shell machine. And you can notice it's basically created a home directory for me. If I list this out, you'll see that we can browse this like a normal Linux box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in here, and I'm going to say -p, and we'll call this JSON YouTube prefix, and we'll close that up, and I'm going to hit enter. So what it's going to do is it's going to look at, do you want to use this existing compartment or select compartments from a list? Well, I'm not sure what compartment I'm actually in, so I want to select it from a list. So it's going to gather all the different compartments under this account. And mine starts with J. It looks like these are in alphabetical order. So let me go up here to JSON Lab, which is 25. So I'm going to type in 25. Using that compartment, do you want to add more? This is interesting because what this allows you to do is attach more compartments to the roles that it's going to create instead of having to do them all individually. I just want to use this one, so I'm going to say no. We'll hit enter, and it's going to start the process. So it's going to create some groups, create some policies, create some roles, and then it's going to basically bind them all together. Now this is enter the directory you want to store the API keys. You can put in your own path, or you can just use the default. I'm just going to use the default. Give it a name. We'll say this is going to be JSON YouTube API key. Goes through the creation process, and that actually completed really, really fast. So let's take a look here. We've got the information shown below. So this is all the stuff we're going to need to finish the onboarding. Let's actually do that, and then we'll hop back in. I was going to show off something, but I'll go ahead. Let's onboard this thing. So let me copy this tenancy OCID. We'll go over to Multicloud Defense. Let's see. This is going to be YouTube OCI demo. Tenancy OCID. We'll paste that in. We'll go back here, the user OCID. We'll copy that over. And then the private key. So again, very similar to GCP. We'll copy that out. And we'll paste that in. Go ahead and click next here. And we can see that it went ahead and onboarded. But again, very similar to GCP. Notice what it didn't do. The inventory enabled region screen is blank. So I want to go ahead and we'll check that. We'll manage inventory. Let's go ahead and enable a region. Let's just do all regions. Keep it simple, stupid. Oh, we don't have all the regions. Okay, so let's try to just do a couple here. US East 1. We'll save and continue. We didn't have permissions in all those regions is what was going on. What's happening here? I ended up throwing a couple in there. I don't know how that happened. We're just going to leave well enough alone. I'm going to pivot back. I do want to show off that, if you do ever clear the screen off, you don't have access to any of that anymore. Those public and private key pairs were actually put in your hidden OCI directory. So if we say, hey, I want to look at OCI, those are stored in here. So you do have the ability to kind of come in and grab those. You can see I've done this before. So we could take a look at that as well. The uninstaller script for onboarding this account is put in right here. So all of them work. I've tried them out before. But now our account, to some extent, I'll go ahead and click exit, is considered onboarded into here. So we move kind of into the validation phase of this, where I'm going to head over to inventory. We'll look at the OCI, and we can see immediately that we are starting to pull quite a bit of information in from here, including different VPCs and VNets. We have different tags coming in. We have different instances coming in. So we are successfully pulling in data or groupings of metadata that we can use later on for policy into the multi-cloud defense controller. So that's all good. And one of the things I want to do is pivot into what happened, within Oracle. So let's take a look at the compartment. If we look at domains here and look at the default domain, one of the things we can do is look at the different users that were provisioned. So if we take a look at users here, I could search for, actually it's right here at the top. This is the controller user that was actually provisioned during that process. So a lot of, from a permission standpoint, what happened is all been done within here. So we can take a look at the different API keys that were created for this guy. If we wanted to look at the permissions, we'd look into this JSON. Basically, you can see it correlates JSON YouTube prefix controller user, and this is the controller group. So this is going to be where a lot of the different permissions and everything were actually applied through. So those were the core components. If you want a really detailed look at what happened, you can of course pivot into our documentation. And this all actually used to be done manually up until very recently when that bash script was actually added. But within here, you can look at, within the setup using the account wizard, you can go to connecting the cloud account and the OCI. So all this preparation, this was stuff that we up until recently had to do manually. So all these different permissions. So if you ever kind of want to look through and try to figure out how all these piece together, this is a good place to start, because the policy again is going to be applied to the group. If I go back to the domain level here and we look for, I thought it was directly in there. Let's look for policy. None of these are it, but I guarantee it'll take me to the right screen under identities, and then we'll go back up to the root. Here's that JSON YouTube prefix controller policy. So this is where all of the different permissions were added. This is also, fun fact, if you were to add permissions to different compartments through this one role, these policy statements are actually where you'd come in and you'd add those additional roles within here. So this is actually the compartment ID that we're allowing this role access to. So if you wanted to append these with other ones, you could do it and let this one role handle access to all of those different compartments. So again, documentation is a great place to go to kind of figure out how all these disparate components fit together. As always, if you found this video useful, keep a keen eye on this channel, as we will be releasing more and more content around the deployment and uses of multi-cloud defense and how you can use it to protect your cloud infrastructure. Thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.